Hello, everyone. I'm very honored to give a talk on behalf of my team. The title of this talk is called Analyzing the Impact of Machine Learning on Cancer Treatment. We have published this paper on IJDST. We can then provide you the information later. First of all, the talk for this paper is as follows. We will talk about the research objective, we talk about the literature review, and followed by the data methodology results, and then with the conclusion. With the research objective, first of all, we focus on the use of a data set for cancer treatment and predict the result of patients by using machine learning methods. Because in these days that there are more and more people getting cancers, and of course it's getting more complex to understand the reasons behind it. Therefore, I think we need to use some advanced machine learning algorithm, and of course we then have to explore and better understand the features such as the Wisconsin breast cancer database, because that provides a very comprehensive data. Then together with the data visualization method, we make sense of the data. And then finally, we then identify a better machine learning algorithm for breast cancer detection, because it's very crucial to detect them in the early stage. And the literature review is as follows, but please bear in mind for further details, please read our paper, because the intention is just to give a summary. First of all, there are researchers as breast cancer researchers, particularly for breast cancer, is the second leading reason behind women's death worldwide. It's getting very serious now. Since 2019, approximately more than 268,000 new cases of invasive breast cancer were identified for diagnosis in U.S. women's, whereas roughly there are about nearly 63,000 non-invasive new cases of breast cancer were found. In order to maximize the possibility of treatment and survivability, early detection is extremely crucial. So the use of machine learning techniques will be extremely useful. As you can see the diagram here, the machine learning techniques is the one to help us. They were involved with other methods like naive Bayes classifier, support vector machine, by clustering RCNN and CNN, that stand for convolutional neural networks, by directional recurrent neural networks, boost techniques, and so on. So all the new techniques will be then on a regular basis for further improvement. And I'm going to talk about some of the selective techniques later on. And as you can see, this is the image from the Wisconsin breast cancer database. As you can see, the difference between the benign and malignant. In most of the cancerous cells that we refer to are mean malignant cells. So we can use the topographies of the breast cancer in this digitalized picture. So what happened is that we use a biopsy and then put into the patient's breast, and then take it off, and then we then can extract some of the sample for further diagnosis. And usually you will use electron microscope just to see how the images look like, and then have a detection whether those cells are benign or malignant. So then we can make them into digitalized form. So those digital images depict the features of all the cell nuclei, because the easiest thing to detect is that then we zoom under at least 20 times under the microscope, and then to look at the nuclei. If it looks something like that, it then indicates a malignant sample. It looks like it's out of control, and then because you have a normal growth rate, whereas in benign, it looks like it's more clustered in the center still. It doesn't really mean good, but it's not as bad as like in malignant cell. And then we use multi-surface method tree to classify the tools and divide them in this way. And they are usually different type of treatment, like chemotherapy, the use of different drugs to get rid of cancerous cells, radiotherapy to expose the body in terms of the some of the radiation rays to reduce the activities of the cancerous cell, and of course surgery. These are the common methods. And while we focus more on science, the contribution is more on the data and methodology for our team. And first of all, the breast cancer data for this, we consider breast cancer database that include 569 examples of cancer biopsies, each with 32 features. So we have been taken to a substantial number, and then each one has 32 features to look at. And one feature is an identification number, another is the cancer diagnosis, and 30 are about numeric value laboratory measurements. So they have taken different measurements, and they have been coded with M to indicate malignant, B to indicate benign. So other numeric measurements, they also include mean, standard error, worst value for 10 different characteristics for the digitized cell nuclei that includes radius, texture, parameter, area, smoothness, compactness, convectivity, concave points, symmetry, and fractal dimension. So while we are doing the data analysis, one technique is called data visualization, because there can be different data sets, a lot of numeric numbers all over the place. So therefore, we then use some machine learning algorithm to make them into visualization. So one way is to use bar chart to understand the distribution of the breast cancer cases. And the volume plot was developed through the mixture of both the kernel density plots along with the box plot. So you have the box plot, and then you also have the density plot to indicate whether those spots are the same, represented by the later, or include the median and the data. The other values represented by the plot also include both the upper and lower values of the adjacent and the also with the interquartile range. Also, we have the correlation matrix. It's the graphical representation of different variables. This is used for determining the correlation between the variables, where correlation refers to a change that occurs in a variable value when there is a change in the value of a different variable. The correlation value ranges between +1 and -1, and that shows that when the value is positive, it offers a positive correlation. Both variables show a change in the same direction. In contrast, a negative correlation shows that both values work in an inverse way. In contrast, the zero value show no correlation. And then decision tree, just to show you the diagram here, then you have root nodes that have the splitting, and then each one will give a different probability based on the likelihood. And then it has been used extensively in machine learning, and the tree starts from the root nodes and has the entire data set subsumed in itself. The branching process takes place after that. The nodes, apart from the root nodes, are having two types: the decision and the leaf nodes. So the decision node, then with the leaf node, and then it comes one and the other. So in the case of decision node, the decision making process is done in the node, while in the case of leaf node, the final result is delivered. Yeah, so you one with decision node, and then the one can deliver the one, and then of course you can then pass on. Then random forest is a machine learning algorithm similar to decision trees. However, difference is that it clusters different decision tree. Then it goes for majority. It means that if there's in this cluster there are various types, and then the majority of the tree that will win, and it will then get a final output. So random forest has been used together with the decision tree as a weak learners. The decision trees are put as subset. It allows the decision trees in a particular subset to operate independently and arrive at a result. All the results from the decision trees are then taken into the modes of the result used for the final result. A naive Bayes works on a formula of a Bayes theorem, and the objects in the algorithm are each assigned with a specific probability. When performing classification problem, the algorithm makes two crucial assumptions that distinguish the algorithm from other machine learning algorithms. First of all, the features or in other terms, the variables are considered independent. The other assumption is the equal contribution to the variable makes the result of the problem. There are three types of machine learning algorithms, the naive-Bayes algorithm, which are listed as below. Multinodal, all the differences in algorithm are based on the type of the data, and in the case that is multinomial for the earlier pronunciation, and also we have different types as follow. Then such as the Bernoulli, that is the variable belong to Boolean type, the algorithm Bernoulli. And a Gaussian, the algorithm is implemented when the algorithm has a normal distribution of data. So let's talk about the results of our analysis. So there are more than 300 individuals had contracted the benign in our case, and then there are slightly over 200 individuals contracted with the disease, but in a malignant form, which means that they got the cancer. Then the benign form of the cancer has an equal distribution. As you can see, it's very concentrated in this part. And however, the distribution in the case of malignant form is far more stretched. It varies extensively because it means that everyone has very different symptoms. And of course, in the cancerous cell, they have in different stages. Therefore, they have a very extensive range. The benign form of the cancer had the shorter radius than the malignant form. And then in the case of the Voisin plots of the malignant, the curve flattens a bit in between. And that shows that the values of radius in the middle portion are a bit less. It means that although it's here, but because it overstretched, therefore it may not indicate the best mean. The malignant form of the other outliers in the data is represented by the small dot. So you can see there are outliers there. Of course, there are outliers there, but there's slightly more here. So the distribution of the benign and malignant types of the breast cancer shows a nearly same type of distribution, with their ends being slightly wider than the top proportion. So you can see that the texture mean versus diagnosis, there are some outliers there for both, but then there are more for the benign. The top of both the benign and malignant plots have outliers near their top portion. Such outliers in the data have been marked with the black dots. This graph is different from the other graph because both the benign and malignant types of cancer show rather the same type of distribution. This shows the texture in breast cancer is quite similar to in benign and malignant. It means that it looks similar, although it may have different texture mean. And then we then look at the Voisin plot to show the data between the parameters and diagnosis of the two types of cancer. The Voisin plot for the benign type shows a much wider distribution in the middle. As you can see, there is a much wider distribution in the middle. And whereas the taper vary quickly between or towards both ends for the malignant because you then go to a sharp end. Like that, of course, there is also like that, but then it's more obvious on the malignant side. The plot of the malignant is much flatter, which shows that a much more equitable distribution throughout the range of the values. However, in the case of benign forms of breast cancer, the value shows a less equitable distribution and are flatter in the middle section. So for benign, they are more focused on that parameter means that most of them fall into this category. Whereas for malignant, it can go over the place. It can mean the parameter is not that large, but for some, it can be very extensively. Therefore, it is having a much wider range. And then with the area mean, the above volume plot shows the data between the parameter and diagnosis of two types of cancer. The graph shows that for the type of the benign type of breast cancer, the area lies in the range of 0 to 1,000. So that can be from nothing, then all the way to 1,000. And the graph shows the very wide distribution in the middle section near the value of 500, because in the 500, then most of those parameters are concentrated in this part. And where distribution value decreases steeply and ends with a few outliers in the data. interquartile range is from near the value of 500 and concentrated near it. And the graph in the malignant type shows a rather flatter distribution when compared against its benign counterpart. The plot is extremely flat above the value of 1,500 and continue up to 2,500. As you can see, it then goes up all the way and goes up to 2,500, and there are quite a lot of outliers, very extensively, and the middle range is huge as well. In terms of the concave points mean versus diagnosis, the interquartile range of the benign form is concentrated in a very small region between 0.02 and 0.04. As you can see here, most of them are here. And the data for the benign cancer has much more outliers in the concave range of 0.05 and 0.1 more outliers. The interquartile for this malignant type of the cancer is from slightly above the value of 0.05 and continues to a very slightly above the value of 0.1. So as you can see, although most of the median values are here, but then it then goes very extensively, and there are a lot of outliers. The distribution for malignant type is much flatter than the benign, whereas the middle shows a very heavy distribution. As you can see, heavy distribution is more well distributed. And let's look at a machine learning algorithm. We can then perform by using some algorithms such as random forest. Once we run a code, then you can show the accuracy. It shows a 0.9647 and 95% confidence interval. It will take the value, the lower limit and the upper limit. It means that you can also go above, but in average, accuracy will get to this. The p-value must be small. In this case, is useful. So these are the other type of measurement. Then of course, if you also run the code, you also get sensitivity, specificity, and also other key values. And in this case, that if you're running the naive base, the accuracy is 0.9118 and with 95% confidence interval. And then with the very small p-values. So in a way that we can then get a confusion metrics and statistics in this case to show the results. And random forest has a better accuracy. Then we can also run together with a decision tree. If we run decision tree, we get about 0.9647, which is not that far from random forest. And this is how it looks like, because when you run a decision tree, it will tell you a different distribution. And the decision tree model presents accuracy of 81.69%, and results are quite good since the algorithm is a weak learner. When you use a weak learner, then you still get a good result for that. And of course, if you improve on the model, then you're going to improve on the accuracy. So let's just talk about the different types of algorithm we used. For instance, the random forest in this case is 96.47. Naive base is 91.18, and decision tree 81.69. Just to make a slightly correction for the previous slide. So decision tree is 81.69%. It's just that the results are random forest. Then the algorithms which deliver the best result among these three is of course random forest, which shows 96.47%. Then conclusion is that the research used several machine learning algorithms to conduct cancer prediction, including random forest, naive Bayes, and decision tree. Of course, in my other types of research, I've used other algorithms as well. So the results show that all of the three algorithms achieve accuracy above 80%. There's a minimum acceptable range. And random forest is the one that can deliver because it is above 95%. And in addition, a computer with machine learning algorithm is far more efficient than human beings, capable of performing thousands of biopsies in just milliseconds. Then we can use machine learning to improve on the accuracy, improve the process, improve the automation. Thus, the utilization of machine learning algorithm can largely reduce the workload of the medical experts and make cancer treatment more efficient. advanced algorithms can be applied in other domains or scientific problems too, because that as some research questions become more challenging and more complex, we need very innovative methods to help us to make a better understanding and make a quicker, better, more efficient diagnosis. Then why should you cite our paper? So first of all, research investigates the relationship between the machine learning techniques with the health sector, especially cancer treatment, then conduct the cancer prediction using several machine learning algorithms, such as random forest, NIE-based, and decision tree in this case. By using the machine learning, this work is doctors in identifying cancer symptoms at a prior stage, which then helps them in curing cancers as early as possible. As we know that early detection is the key towards better treatment. And a complete study has proven the benefits of machine learning or IT technologies in resolving the problem for cancer. This improved the healthcare sector significantly and provided many growth opportunity to many medical practitioners. As we can know that the advanced machine learning and also other information technology has been part of the healthcare sector. Like all the doctors are feeling comfortable of using technologies to improve the diagnosis and also make their diagnosis better and quicker. And also, I started working on similar project in 2008, and working with a scientist, and even I saw what they have done, such as they actually did a dissection, and then have done everything under electron microscope, and then put it in the fringe, and then make them into digital format. And also took part in developing, maintaining, and improving the database system. So therefore, since 2008, I did not lose my knowledge, but actually I expanded my knowledge. It's just that it's very important these days that we need to demonstrate we are the one who understand and make the meaningful contribution. And therefore, if you find that this paper is useful, helpful, or inspiring to you, please consider citing our paper. And the link is here, and then we can then provide another link for the open access or the equivalent version. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the time, and we wish you all the best. Thank you. Have a good day, and bye.